Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Tuesday. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Thank you as always for joining me. Plenty to get stuck into today. We're going to talk about Eberechi Eze, a topic you all know that I love to talk about. So we are going to talk about that. We've got some big news on him that has been breaking in the last 24 hours or so. So we're going to discuss that. We've got other bits and pieces to discuss as well. Loads of questions and comments from you. We'll look at what Brentford have been saying about Christian Norgaard as his move to Arsenal draws ever closer. Could well have an announcement today, possibly, when it comes to Arsenal and a new signing. We'll wait and see. There was a chance that was going to happen yesterday. It didn't. So we'll wait and see if one happens today or not. Fingers crossed it does. We are in July. Happy July, everyone. The 1st of July today. So let's wait and see what this week brings. Hopefully, it brings us a confirmed signing or two. Just to note, before we get stuck into today's show, myself and James Ben just sitting down a little bit later on today to record Inside Arsenal Extra Time. So as always, if you want to get involved in that show, if you want to give us a question, you want to give us a comment that you want us to discuss, get down into the comment section here below this video. Start with Extra Time, give us your question, give us your comment. As always, I'll pull a few of them together and get them included in today's show, excuse me. So let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about Eberechi Eze, because why not? Because he's a fantastic player, because he's a player Arsenal absolutely should be signing, as I've made no secret of my desire for them to do so far in the last couple of months. And talks have taken place. That is correct. Talks have taken place between Eberechi Eze's representatives and Arsenal in the last few days. No bid has been made. Reported by David Ornstein, no discussions yet between Arsenal and Crystal Palace for Eze. These talks have been about sort of exploring the nature of the deal, the terms of any deal, all that sort of stuff. And so there is caution in this that Arsenal have been speaking to, and we know that this is how Andre Berta operates. I mean, he's been speaking to a lot of potential targets, or the representatives of those targets, to find the sort of lay of the land, to work out the lay of the land, to decide what the terms are going to be. And that's where Arsenal are at the moment, is with Eze. But things certainly do seem to be heating up in regards to that potential deal. As you see, David this morning in Athletic writing a piece about it, says Arsenal put Eze high among the options to bolster the attack. No contact yet with Crystal Palace. Unclear if needs an exit, but serious candidate. And this is the important thing, separate to striker and winger. Arsenal would look to pay below the release clause. Tottenham not pursuing for now. Now, we know the release clause for Eze is about 68 million. It's 60 plus 8. But Palace, I think part of that release clause is it's sort of 3 separate installments of around 20 million. And the plus 8 comes a little bit later on, I think. Whether Palace would be willing to negotiate on that and maybe accept a little bit less, we'll have to wait and see. It appears that that's the sort of route that Arsenal are looking to go down if they do really firm up this interest with Eze. But that really important line from David, which I have to admit I'm surprised by. I've spoken about it. I know there'd be questions about it. I think Jelly Belly, I think you're always on there saying about getting Eze and a winger. I already saw your message on X as well about it today. And yeah, I honestly thought it would be a case of Eze and Rodrigo, or I'm sorry, Eze or Rodrigo, or Eze and a winger. But the prospect of getting a striker, a winger, and a sort of creative, almost free player, if you see, a player who's sort of given more freedom to express themselves in an attacking sense of an Eze who can play centrally. Of course, Morgan Rogers, we know, is another player that they like. That's a really, really exciting prospect. Lots of you have got in touch on this. Obviously, Jas Fanford's got in touch. Says, hey, Charles Ornstein, bomber. Eze is a separate deal to a striker and a winger. Are we really in an unprecedented window, as mentioned 6 months back? I think we will push for Eze, Madueke as Saka backup, and Sesko. 160 million on the attack. Would love Rodrigo instead of Madueke, but let's be humble and wait for a surprise. Aaron says, hey, Charles, so the news is targeting Eze separate from a left winger and a striker signing is one of the best news this transfer window. Eze is awesome, but if we can deploy a player like Eze as a squad player, it really help with our depth a lot. Odegaard took too much burden in midfield for the past 2 seasons, and Eze can definitely help him. But I think it means we need at least one major departure to sign all of a striker, left winger, and Eze. And Yevon says, hi, Charles. David Ornstein has just reported that Eberechi Eze news. And interestingly, he said it is separate to a striker and a winger. What does it mean? Is it possible to get a left winger and a striker plus Eze if we can strike a deal. If we do that, that would be a real goosebump, as Mikel summed up the window before it opened. Looking forward to seeing how it turns out. So lots of questions on Eze. I think this is really, really interesting. It could be a winger and Eze is really interesting. Like, what does it mean? I think it was Yevon who just asked that question. What does it mean? And obviously, we'll have to wait and see because we're a long way off Arsenal signing Eze for a start. But if they do, I have to admit, I'm starting to wonder if, and this is just me thinking sort of out loud here, not information or anything like that. But if you sign Eze, who is predominantly a left-sided player, would you then sign a left winger when you've already got Martinelli and Trossard, if both of those stay? Or would signing Eze mean that you're sort of moving a little bit across to signing a right winger sort of backup option? I don't know. I mean, this is obviously all just fresh, and I am thinking out loud on it. It feels unlikely to me that Arsenal would not have to make a sale to sign those three. If you're spending big on a winger, you're spending big on a player like Eze, you're spending big on a striker, it would surprise me if they didn't have to sanction a sale to do that. And when you look at the potential sales, you're thinking probably either Martinelli or Leandro Trossard. But I just think Eze would be such a brilliant addition to this squad. It's really, really does excite. It honestly excites me more than I think of any other player that I've had mentioned as a possible target for Arsenal this summer. I know the striker is so vitally important and we've got to get that over the line. They need to get that sorted quickly. But I just think adding that kind of X-factor maverick player who just plays, as I said, with a bit of freedom, who can move from out wide into the central areas, who can unlock tight defenses, can score from distance, who can just do something out of nothing that just breaks open a game that had been, struggling at 0-0 for a long time, struggling to score. Arsenal just don't have that type of player in the team. It's why Eze really does excite me, and I think he'd be so perfect for it. So we'll wait and see how this progresses. Obviously, it's exciting news for Eze fans out there like myself, and we'll wait and see how it progresses. But I think it certainly does raise questions about what the profile of winger would be if Eze does sign, as in, would it be left-sided like we've all been expecting, or would suddenly they shift a little bit more towards the right? And we've heard of the links to Madueke as a sort of Saka backup rather than signing another left winger and Eze. Also, what would it mean for a potential sale in the squad? It's a really interesting development, and we'll see how it progresses over the next few days, or probably not, sorry, for the next few weeks rather than a few days or so. What could happen in the next few days is Christian Norgaard could well sign for Arsenal. This is going to be an interesting week. We've had the Brentford director of football speaking about Norgaard yesterday. They were unveiling their new manager, Keith Andrews, and director of football Phil Giles was there, and he was asked obviously by the media about Norgaard, and this is what he had to say. He said, Arsenal approached us in the last 2 weeks about Christian. We've spoken regularly with Andrea Berta. As it stands, I think it's more likely to happen than not, but we have to go through all the process, tick all the boxes, and we'll see at the end of it. He's a fantastic player. He's been unbelievable for us. I'm actually happy for him that he's earned the opportunity at this stage of his career at 31 to go and have the opportunity to win some trophies. As it stands, it hasn't been completed yet, but it is headed in that direction. Now, Norgaard's been away on holiday like most players. Arsenal pre-season is due to start next week. I'm pretty confident that this will probably be wrapped up before pre-season starts, and that on the opening day of pre-season that Christian Norgaard will be making a journey into London Colney rather than into Brentford's training ground. I'll be very surprised if it drags on. I mean, the fact that Phil Giles spoke so openly about it yesterday suggests that this is all pretty much done and dusted. It's just a case of waiting for Norgaard to get back off holiday and then complete the formalities and sign his contract. So yeah, I'm pretty confident Christian Norgaard will be an Arsenal player sooner rather than later. Announcements wise, we're just waiting now. As I said, July the 1st, we're just waiting for Kepa. We're waiting for Zubimendi. Similar to Norgaard, I would expect those two to be announced certainly by the end of the week. Wouldn't surprise me if we get an announcement at some point today about one of them. We'll have to wait and see on that. It's just a case of waiting for Arsenal to get their finger out basically and get these announcements done and dusted. But I don't think we're going to have to wait very long. We know that Zubimendi's already over in London. He's been oversigned of his contracts anyway a while back, but he is over in London now, waiting for the official confirmation. Pre-season will start tomorrow. He'll be there for that. Kepa will be there for that as well. And it's just going to be a good little start to the month if they can wrap up these deals very, very quickly, get them over the line, get them announced. More importantly, then we'll see what happens with Mosquera when that second bid does go in for him. Is it going to be enough to tempt Valencia into selling and agreeing, or do they have to go back for a third bid? We'll wait and see. But if Arsenal can just get these ones done and dusted, out the way, ticked off, get them in the building, and then just all the focus can be on what needs to be done in attack after that. So it'd just be nice to have these distractions, if you want to even call them that, out the way. But yeah, I don't think we're going to have to wait too long now for the announcements, certainly of Arsenal's first couple of signings of the transfer window, and hopefully not, maybe even Arsenal's first 3 signings of the transfer window. Before I get into your questions and comments, just touching on what's been going on around the world football-wise. Manchester City are out of the Club World Cup. I've got to admit, I'm really disappointed in this. I wanted City to go as deep as possible in this competition, go to the final, hopefully to play Chelsea, although I think they had to meet. They couldn't meet in the final. I think they had to meet. They're in the same side of the draw. But I just wanted both English teams to go as deep into it as possibly can, just so they can knacker their players out even more. That was my purely selfish reason for wanting them. So when I woke up this morning and saw that Man City had been beaten, I was very, very disappointed, because I wanted them to knacker themselves out as much as possible and be absolutely dead for the Premier League season. But they're not. They're going to have a bit of a break now. They are going to be able to rest a little bit. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, that's the Club World Cup news. Manchester City done. They are out, losing 4-3. Chelsea, the only English team now left in that competition. Right, moving into your questions and comments now. Let's go through these first. I just really wanted, this was such a lovely message from Marco. This was on the Inside Arsenal Discord. Thank you very much for this, Marco. You say, hi, Charles. Say if Saliba didn't want to sign an extension this summer, would you try and sell him in the summer and get a bigger fee, or do it next summer for a smaller fee? I know he's one of our best players and it's crucial, but our most lucrative transfers out of the club top up at about 40 million, and Elka is still in the top 5 outgoings of all time, even though that was almost 30 years ago. I would not sell him this summer. I would take less money for him next summer. I still think Arsenal will get a lot of money for him next summer if they decided to sell. But I wouldn't sell him this summer. I think this is such an important window for so many reasons, for Arsenal, for Arteta, for the club, for the fans, for everyone. And I just think if you sold William Saliba this summer, it'd be like a Jenga. It'd be like a game of Jenga when you just take away the bottom brick, and then the whole rest of the tower becomes so unstable. And I think that's a sort of metaphor in my mind for what would happen to Arsenal if they suddenly decided to sell William Saliba this summer. So no, not for me. I would wait for next summer. But I wanted to mention this second part of your message, Marco. It's really, really nice. Thank you very much for sending this. You said, on a personal note, and you don't have to read this out loud in the show if you don't want to, I've just finished medicine at university and started watching you about the time you broke the party release clause news a few years ago. I've listened to your show on the bus going to and from hospitals for years, as well as listening as I took breaks between studying. So I felt I needed to say thank you, as you have played a big part in me becoming a doctor. All the best from Croatia, Marco. Which I just thought was such a nice message, Marco. Thank you very much for that. And congratulations, more importantly, on becoming a doctor and doing all your studies at university. I'm glad that the podcast has helped you in any sort of way on your journey to becoming a doctor, which I can't even imagine the work you've gone through to do that. And I'm delighted that listening to the podcast has helped you sort of in any sort of way in doing that. But I just wanted to say congratulations. I'm sure everyone else watching here as well would like to say congratulations to you on completing your studies and becoming a doctor, and best of luck for your career, Marco. And thank you very much for the message. Go on from Simon here. It says, hi, Charles. Assuming both Zubimendi and Norgaard sign and are fit, what are the chances of Arteta going with Norgaard at Old Trafford while Zubi settles into the Premier League? This is interesting, I thought. I think a lot of it, because I don't think that is beyond the realms of possibility, that it's going to take Zubimendi a while to settle in. We're just going to have to accept that. It absolutely is. He's never played in the Premier League before. It is going to take him a while to settle in. That's why ideally, if an agreement could have happened with Thomas Partey and he could have signed a new contract, ideally that would have happened. But obviously the terms just were not agreeable for both sides. And so it was impossible for that to happen, which is why he's ended up moving on. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. I doubt it. I think obviously Arteta will have a good look at Zubimendi during pre-season, how he gets on. Arsenal have got games against Premier League teams in pre-season. I mean, the the pace of the game will be completely different. Of course it will, because it is a pre-season friendly. But Arteta will watch Zubimendi very, very closely, see how he gets on, see how he deals when he plays against Newcastle, when he plays against Spurs, and then make a decision. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility in answer to your question, but I still think it's doubtful, providing Norgaard stays fit and has a good pre-season and doesn't struggle with any sort of injuries. I think he starts at Old Trafford. I would be surprised. But by bringing Norgaard in, you do protect yourself in a way from that situation and have a Premier League proven player who has done it at this level for a while now against the biggest teams. You've got that there to be able to come in and play if needs be. But I still think as long as he has a decent pre-season and injury permitting, I think Zubimendi will certainly be in Arteta's plans right now for that game against Old Trafford on the opening game of the season. Just on top, one on Tomiyasu here. It says, "Hi, Charles. Good job. Please, what's the situation with Tomiyasu?" I mean, there's not much more I can give about Tomiyasu. I've mentioned this before in the past. You can't really factor Tomiyasu into the equation for this season, certainly for the first half of the season anyway. Sort of around the turn of the year, December, January time, we might see Tomiyasu back. That is the plan, unless maybe he comes back early. Maybe the recovery process goes really, really well. But at the moment, I still believe that the sort of recovery timetable for Tomiyasu will be maybe around sort of December or January time. I think it's really hard to factor him in to Arsenal's season. I think it's really, really difficult. Even if he does get back, he'd have played so little football for so long that the thought of him coming into a Premier League season at such a busy time, I just think it's really, really unlikely for me. So I doubt it. But that is a situation with him. Injured at the moment, going to be injured for a long time yet. And we'll have to wait and see around December time whether he can come back into the squad and play any part during the second half of the season. Right, and that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Well, I say that's it from me. I am going to be recording with James Benge, obviously, later on today inside Arsenal Extra Time, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And anything you want us to discuss in the show, get down into the comments, leave a comment, leave a question, and we'll pull some of them together and get them included. Have a good day, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.